Today, we'll be answering a question that historians have had since the mid-1800s, which is, of course, whether or not John Wilkes Booth was actually secretly a cat girl all along. Now, in case you don't know who John Wilkes Booth was, he was born in 1838 in Bel Air, and he died in 1865 in Virginia shortly after he murdered the President of the United States at the time, Abraham Lincoln. Now, our first point of evidence is the fact that John Wilkes Booth was an actor. Now, acting is similar to anime, as it turns out. In fact, both involve acting, but more importantly, plays are similar to the format of anime. Here's how you should see it. Plays are just 3D anime. Now that we've established the fact that John Wilkes Booth was simply a 3D anime character, I'm here to present my second piece of evidence, which is the fact that John Wilkes Booth, during his performance of the play Marble Heart, shook his finger at Lincoln. Now, if you ask me, this sounds like a classic example of the sly Neko shaking her finger at the MC. Now, for my third piece of evidence, John Wilkes Booth also had an oil company, and in order to gather the oil, he had an oil well. He decided to personify this well and named it Wilhelmina. Now, why is this important? Well, you see, in anime, there's this important concept known as moification. What this is when you take inanimate objects and then turn them into anime girls. The way that I see it here is that John Wilkes Booth, what he did was he took his oil well and turned it into an anime girl, a perfect example of moification. Now, for the fourth piece of evidence, also on the topic of oil, when he wasn't happy with how much oil he was getting out of his oil well, he decided to just blow the entire thing up in the hopes that they would get a bigger stream of oil. Now, what does this remind you of? Well, it reminds me of the anime character Megumin from Konosuba. Now, while not a Neko herself, she does have a cat, and also, she is a lolly, like Nekos are usually portrayed. And on the topic of lollies, we have our fifth piece of evidence, which is that John Wilkes Booth stood at only 5 foot 8 inches, meaning that this man was a lolly. And now, for my fifth and final piece of evidence, is that John Wilkes Booth had a sister named Asya. Now, let me ask you, what anime shares a person of this same name? That's right, it's Asya from High School DxD. Now, think. The other characters in High School DxD. Among them, there's another one known as Koneko, who, minor spoilers, is also a cat girl. Now, as you can see here, the evidence is irrefutable. No matter how I look at it, I cannot come to a different conclusion. It appears as though John Wilkes Booth was truly an anime cat girl all along.